guys, and Rick, we love you. God bless, Rick. Have a good time up there. Say hi to Mom and Dad. Say hi to Ponty. I'm sure you and Eddie are talking about your uncle smoking cigarettes in the back of the studio. And my other buddy that passed away, Rick's Larry. I always forget Larry. And Larry, you guys are all up there doing your function nacho. So God bless and we love you. We're going to miss you all.
That was give him a round of applause. That was fun. For those who don't know me, I'm Brandon Sass. I met Rick at Beretta's restaurant. Someone said, "Hey, they're going to do comedy at Beretta's." I walk in and there's this dude going, "Who are you?" I'm the comic. He's like, "Oh, okay." And you know, when someone says you want to do comedy as a comic, a young comic, you go, "What are you going to pay me?" And they said, "Food." It's like, good. We're there. But Beretta's was more than just a restaurant or a place to perform, because when you met Rick, he was like your best friend until you proved him wrong. You know, that was it. You stepped in and it was over. You know, Dolly kept, at the time I was really skinny, Dolly said, "You're not eating enough. If I eat more, I cannot go on stage." Okay? So you were just like you were in their home. And I remember when you guys were dating and, you know, Rick said, "Oh, you're getting married?" I said, "Yeah, I'm getting married." He's like, "You're putting pressure on me now." It's like, because I got married 28 years ago. You guys were dating at the same time. You just pulled it off. But, you know, performing with Rick, or actually watching Rick perform, we would do comedy and then we music. And when you see Rick sit down at the piano and settle in and you see his eyes light up and you're just, it's over. He was just such an amazing performer. Everything about him was entertainment, whether it be on the phone, whether it be in person, or if you walk into his house. I was invited to a party at his house, and he always talked about all these people he knew. You walk in, you're like, there is this person, and you see all the stars in the Bay Area, and they're his friends. And they're like, if you can make friends of these people, be genuine with these people. And they're not there flashy, they're drinking a beer, they're wearing their, you know, whatever they're wearing, and they were genuine with him. And you see that, you realize how good of a human being he was. And I have not had the opportunity to see him in a few years, but I would try to, well, actually for a while, I tried to call him and keep, you know, leaving messages. But last time I talked to him, he sounded so great. And it reminded me of all those things. And when someone said, "Hey, take a moment and think about," when the priest said, "Take a moment, you know, think about," it was you, so take a moment and think about a joyful memory with Rick. It's like, there's not enough hours in the friggin' day. You know, because every minute with Rick was a pure frickin' joy. And I almost got it. So I just want you all to think about that. Every time you hear music, every time you think of something funny, or every time you think you're having a bad day, think about how Rick handled bad days. Because if they're not patting you on the face with a shovel, you got another chance. Love you all. Thank you very much.
She says, go ahead. So I remember the NFL thing now. Rico had the golf tournament. And being that I'm a golfer, he had me, "You want to play with some NFL players?" And I'm like, I don't know. I don't really care for the NFL. So who was it? It was Jeremy Brigham. So then we go out there to Ruby Hills or wherever it was, and Tony Dungy's there, and all kinds of NFL players, and here I am hitting my ball 180 yards, and these guys are hitting at 300 yards, you know. But yeah, I think we played out there, and then we did one over at Harding Park, I think, another one. So I remember that NFL stuff. That was a memory I didn't remember until just now. So Rico came into my flight school about 20 years ago, I think it was. And he goes like, "Oh yeah, I want to learn how to fly. I took some lessons down in Hayward, and it's not going the way I wanted, so maybe I can fly at your place." And I said, "Okay, that's fine." So we set up a flight. We went out flying about 3 or 4 days later, and then he said, "Oh So he was hooked on Oakland Flyers at that point. He just had so much fun flying. He would be sweating all the time. I was like, why, if you're having so much fun, why are you sweating? It was kind of like, oh my God, Jimbo, this is a blast. He always called me Jimbo, that was the other thing. Yeah, hey Jimbo, and he goes, yeah, this is a blast. And I said, well, put the vent on or something. I mean, you're going to have a heart attack on me while we're out there flying. So it was really fun to have him come on board. And then it was very quick that he could see, like, he couldn't afford to do these flying lessons. So most people can't, actually. So he was like, what can I do to help you at the flight school? And I said, well, it's just a little place, so I don't have a whole lot going on. But the first thing that he hit on was my website. So he said, your website totally sucks. Which was true, actually. Yeah, it was definitely true. And he goes, I can make a website for you, and we could trade off some flying lessons. And I said, okay, that sounds like a deal. And so he starts working on the website. We keep flying, and he just got really involved with Open Flyers at that point. The website is still the same one. Yeah, well, you and Jim need to upgrade it. We need to get some new photos on there and stuff. But it's the same website. It was wonderful. So we bartered out the website to get some flying lessons going for him. And then it was like, what else can I do for Jimbo? Let's see. Who's doing your books? Who's doing your accounting? And I said, oh, I don't. That guy just quit. Oh, I'll do it for you then. So the next thing you know, he starts doing the QuickBooks, and then he's preparing the taxes. And so the bottom line is he became my partner. So I actually signed him on as a partner to the flight school at that point. So he did a lot. He really loved that business. I remember one time we were sitting in the kitchen, and the floor was in pretty bad shape. And I said, we need to put some new tile in this kitchen. And he goes, oh, I got a tile saw. I go, what are you doing with a tile saw? He goes, I got a tile saw. We could do it together. And I'm like, I've never done a floor before, So next thing you know, we're spending Saturday and Sunday putting in a floor at Oakland Flyers that's still there to this day. And so I learned how to lay tile because of Rico. Yeah, it's pretty, that's how committed he was to the flight school. One little flight story is he didn't like doing stalls. So stalls are where Debbie's going, no, he did. He'd come home going, oh, fuck, I gotta do stalls. We're going to do stalls tomorrow. He wouldn't sleep all night. So we had this one point, it was 180 horsepower Cessna. And you needed the stalls where you kind of go, point the nose up, and it shakes and rattles, and then it goes down. So it's like a roller coaster for the layman people. And if you don't use enough right rudder on this maneuver, the left wing will kind of go like this. And so I kept pushing the rudder for him because the sweat's coming off. I could see the sweat coming down and all this. So I would push the rudder, and then he would do the stall, and I'd go, oh, shit. And then I pushed the rudder again. I said, dude, you're going to have to start pushing the rudder yourself. I can't keep doing this for you. So sure enough, I didn't do it. So, and the plane's going up, and then I didn't push the rudder, then it flips over. And it's like, whoa, like this, and then, and Rico turns white as a ghost, and he goes, oh shit, what was that? And I go, that's called a spin. So that's your first spin, we'll put that in your logbook. He goes, oh, I don't want to do that again. I go, well, push the goddamn rudder. It's like, seriously, what's up with that? So, Rico had many facets. Well, so we got to know each other at the beginning, and he goes, have you always been flying? I said, well, yeah, my dad was a pilot, and then I spent about 20 plus years in the music business. And he goes, what? You were in the music business? I'm in the music business. And I said, really? And so he starts asking me, like, what do you do? And I said, well, I started in retail, and then I worked for major labels. I worked for RCA and MCA, and he's like, "Whoa, get out of here!" And he got so excited about the music thing, so he starts dropping these names. Do you know this guy? Yes. Do you know him? Yes. People that he's worked with, that I worked with. So we ended up having common bonds of lots of people in the music business, you know, and over the years we shared all that joy for music and for flying. And to this day, Debbie's doing the books and the QuickBooks and working with Jim, my partner, and still a big part of Open Flyers. Yeah, so he's always been there for me. I went through a divorce that was challenging, and he'd stay on the phone with me till 1 or 2 in the morning. And that's the kind of guy he was. So step on the rudder, dude. Right rudder.
Hello, my name is Darnell Gill, and over 30 years or so, I sang with Ponte, and we recorded at the studio. A lot of memories. You know Angela Bofield. She was in the studio, I was there, Dolly was there, Angela's in there singing, and so she comes out, and Dolly tells her, "Oh, you're going to be famous one day. You sing really good, but honey, go back in there and do it again. You can do a little bit better." I went that way laughing. I'm like, "Oh, she don't know." So anyway, that was one of the great moments. And the other moment when me and Ponte was singing, that's Dwayne's The Rock's cousin, and I did something in Rico. I thought he said something Debbie and Nina know, and I was just laughing. And he said, "What are you laughing so hard for?" I said, "Well, you said, pardon me, but you're a good little nigger." And I'm just laughing, and he said, "I didn't say that. I said you're a good little learner." And I told you and Debbie that, and Rick, I would never say that, and I'm just laughing. "Well, you can't say it. You're my brother." And so we went on and on. And so I worked for Black Tie Transportation for over 9 years or so. I was John Madden's driver. And every Christmas, every Christmas, they would rent the limo with Black Tie. I would pick up Debbie and Nina. I would take them to the Nutcracker. And then I would wait. Rick wanted me to come inside. And so we would eat at the California Pizza Kitchen in San Francisco. And it was just, I have 7 sisters and 5 brothers. I'm the middle child out of 12. Rico treated me better than, trust me. And they know me, you're raccoons. If you don't get good, you don't go along with me. So there's a lot, my brothers, I would call them raccoons. And why you call them? Because raccoons will smile in your face and rip your heart out behind your back. So anyway, they knew my little Darnellisms. You're either a little dirty birdie or a little raccoon. And Rico would just tell me these stories. And I sang with Rosie Gaines for, I don't know how many years. And Rico helped me. I don't like flying. He wanted me to go with him. I said, "The devil is a liar." So I introduced Rick to Chris and Fanny, Kristen over there, and Kid. And they've been his friends all this time. And it's so funny because they encouraged me to go to Budapest, Hungary. And I'm like, "How am I going to get on a train? I'm not getting on that plane." Well, somebody told me about Adaman. So Adaman, I know, that's what I, but listen, I was Lufthansa. Drinking the wine and that, I made it there. And Fanny's from Budapest right there. She's from Hungary. And so her best friend, they lived in the apartment where I lived, which was Creekwood Apartments. They were on the top floor. And so it was her friend, Charlie Fiver. So, "Oh, I can set up a tour in Budapest." And I'm like, "Buddha who?" I'm sorry, I didn't know. I said, "I don't want to go to Desert Storm." That's how ignorant I didn't know. So anyway, they encouraged me. Rick encouraged me. I went to Budapest, Hungary. I was there for 2 months. I sang at the Siget Festival, 30,000 people. Red carpet treatment. It was the best time of my life. And Rico he's gonna always be with me. When Dolly passed, it was really hard, and they know when Rico got off the phone with me, what was he doing? I'd make him laugh. And I told him, you gotta trust God a little bit, and he was like, "Oh, he was kind of mad at God." And I encouraged him, and but I was always pushing. And I just said, you know what? You want to see Dollar? Yeah. I said, do you accept the Lord as your Savior? And he said, yes. And then I encouraged him. You know that for years. And I mean, it just broke my heart, right? But it didn't, because I know he's happy. He's not in pain. He's not suffering. You know what I'm saying? And just continue living his legacy, and Rick will live on. So God bless you guys. Thank you so much. And you too, Elizabeth. Thank you. Oh, when you guys were recording in Los Angeles, I live in Los Angeles, you guys. So Rick called me up. I went down there with Elizabeth at the hotel and the whole bit. And the designer guy who did the hair, I took him home. I took him home in Bel Air. And that was the best time in your album? Oh, it's the best. Oh, awesome. She is awesome. Elizabeth Edwards, you guys. Check her out. God bless you guys. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Karina Barlow, and I am not a lifelong friend of Rick's. Haven't known him since he was 10 years old, but I have known him for about 10 years, I'd say, something like that. And, you know, everybody has these great memories of Rick, but I'd like to tell you what Rick did for me. He introduced me to a lot of people that boosted my self-esteem. I remember the very first time I ever saw Rick and Larry perform was in Black Hawk. And I was promoting this young starlet, and we met Dave August there, who I don't think even recognized me. Okay, David August and Johnny Gunn. And I remember being with this young girl, and I was extremely overweight at the time. And I was really feeling bad about myself. And I remember Johnny later telling me, he goes, you know, Karina, don't feel so bad about yourself. You know, you're funny, you're this and that really started to boost me, you know, and if it hadn't been for Rick, I'd have never met Johnny. I remember meeting, Daryl's, you know, about what Dolly said in the studio. Okay, I have a similar story. Except it's not about Dolly, it's about me. I'm sitting there with Frankie Beverly, and we're just kind of joking around and stuff after an event, and Frankie started singing. You know, he's up there humming and singing, and I look at him and I go, you know, you got a pretty good voice there, Frankie. You ought to do something with it. Yeah. And he's just cracking up and stuff, and you know, we're having a great time. And I remember meeting with, again, Rico at Jeremy Brigham's golf tournament, and worked a couple of those, and at the Olympic Stadium as well. And Eddie walks in, and I met him a couple of times, and he walks, or actually it was only twice I had met him before that. And he walks by me and he goes, hey, Karina, how you doing? Oh, I'm fine. And then he walked by and I went, oh my God, it knows my name! He remembered me, you know? But back to the first night of Black Hawk there. I was so impressed with Rico and Larry and their performance. I wrote Rico a letter. You guys probably don't remember this. But I wrote him a letter, and I'm one that I believe truly that there are not enough compliments paid in this world to each other. And so I really tried hard to do that. Even if I meet a stranger, I try to tell him something I like about him. Never mind. I was going to say, I even tried to find something good about Nancy Pelosi. But I remember I wrote this letter to Rick, and he called me up. And he said to me, he goes, you write beautifully. And I just was like, melted. He goes, do you mind if I share this letter with my sister and my girlfriend? I was like, no. I mean, I was so impressed that he really wanted to share my writing with them, you know? And just all the encouragement that I've had from him and from the people that surround him. I don't think I would be the person that I am today had I not gotten those kind of encouragement. And you know, he was always telling me, I bet you guys thought I was going to talk about Massimo's, huh? And my mom just passed away 7 months ago, and she was 95 years old. She was a feisty Italian lady. And if you look on Nina's Facebook wall, I have a picture of her on there, and I took her to Massimo's to see Larry and Rico. go perform their Frank Sinatra stuff, and my mom's reaching up, and I will never forget this. She looks at him and she goes, "You're such a good Italian boy, you know?" and I'm like, oh. And if you look at those pictures closely, there's two of her and Rico and one of Larry, and then there's one of me and her. She's not even smiling half as big with me as she is with the boys, because anybody who knows an Italian mama, the boys are everything. The girls are just, you're supposed to cook. you know. And so I am very grateful for his example, for the person that he knew I could be. He always asked me at Massimo's at night, he kept bugging me, "You sing?" "Yeah, I sing." "Why don't you sing?" "No, because you know why? Because I heard everybody else singing." And I went, "I thought I could sing." "Guess not. But I can speak." And I thought, maybe I'll sit here and sing tonight. Not a chance. I'll speak. And I leave these things with you. Thank you so much.
My name is Grant Taylor, and before I start, Rico, I haven't had my mask off inside for 3.5 years, and I do not want to come play cards with you, so keep me well. I met Rico almost 30 years ago, and it was through Judy Davis, who was a vocal coach, and I had already recorded 5 songs at Fantasy Studios, produced them on my own, and she said, "I think you need to go see Rico to work on the rest of these." And so I showed up in the studio, and I walked in, and I said, "Oh my God, you're a kid. What are you going to do?" And I knew nothing about his background. And he says, "I bet I'm older than you." Now, I'm a lot older than him, but he says, he put $20 down, so I showed him my guitar, so he goes, "Okay, get in the car, we're going to all the bars, we're going to make enough money to record the album." That was how I met Rico, And so it goes, and everybody has stories, but Nina and Debbie, I love you both. You guys stayed up till 4 in the morning getting food to us, and we'd be out there, and you got the best of Rico, really. Rico gave all of us something, but you got the best, and I was blessed to know him and blessed to be able to have, as a singer-songwriter, the songs he and I wrote together to become more than it would have been of just, my vision. So one example would be Voodoo Boy was a little 4-verse thing, a little nothing, and all of a sudden we had Ponte doing pre-Polynesian war chants, we had congas, we had didgeridoos, we had 36 tracks of backup singers. That's Rico. And all of a sudden this vision becomes something greater than I would have imagined. And something you probably may or not know is that I went to dinner the year I went to the Grammys, and I had dinner with a woman from Honolulu, and it was spinning. Voodoo Boy spun 38 times a week back then. It was really spinning. Hawaii, it was like big. Well, who knew when we wrote it that the Polynesian theme would do that? And she said they named a bar called the Voodoo Boy Bar. So there you go, in Honolulu. So his effect kind of rippled out, across time, and I am just totally honored to have known him. I've been in shock. I haven't done my crying yet because it's just too big and deep. I have buried my best friends this year. This is the worst of all of it. This last year or two has been bad, including my brother. And Rico's is actually the hardest. It was hard for me to get here today. It was hard to come and say goodbye, to somebody that affected me on a personal and professional level so deeply. So I'm just glad to be here, and I hope Judy and here playing gin rummy, and I'll be up there, but not right now.
So it's interesting. Everyone has these stories, and it's hard to come after someone. The atmosphere is wrong, but there's never a great time. But what I wanted to share is that Earth is a school. And no matter how you've met the man, he has mastered the biggest part that you're ever going to find on why we're here. And he put people above money. There's not one person in this room, and if you look around the room, the degree of talent and the caliber of people only attests to the person that he was. Sure, he would help me out any time, but it wasn't that. Like every person, he would put them above money. Even if he had to go into his pocket to do it, it wasn't his project. It was for others. And so we mourn. He is very happy. See, for him, it's a second, and we'll see him again. For us, we're still having to deal with, overcoming our stuff. He's accomplished everything that he needed to do while he was here. All right, so at this point, there was nothing more for him to achieve. I mean, yes, we grieve. But guess what, guys? It won't be long. We just develop ourselves, and just as Rick did, and we'll see him again soon, guys. It's not that big. Just realize, look in this room, and that tells you the person that he is. Rick, you're a great man. Thank you very much.
Honestly, I don't like public speaking. Much better singing than speaking. But I feel like it would be, I'd regret it if I didn't say how much Rick has meant to me and my career. He's just amazing. He's been so supportive. It's a really hard time just processing the loss. He was very loving with my family. Always, when I was, did I say my name? I'm off here. And my real name's Kelly. But anyway, he called me Ophir. He actually called me Kid. So every time I'd call, or he'd call me, he'd say, "Hey, Kid," and it was just so easygoing. But when I performed at the Bubble Lounge, he did everything. He set up the music, he organized the musicians, he was doing websites, he was working for Sony. I mean, I don't know how he got that kind of energy. I just don't know. It was just like, he just had it handled. He was the kind of guy that made everything seem easy. And, all I had to do was sing. But I was just so grateful for everything that he did for my career. He said, I really believe in your talent. Even this year, he said, you're so talented. You're my artist, and blah, blah, blah. And I never saw myself that way, but in him, everyone could become greater than they knew themselves to be. So that's going to be missed, because obviously I'm back to who I think I am now, which is, you know what I mean. But it's just, he's such a loving guy, and he was always just amazing for all of us. He was the heart of everyone here. So he'll be sorely missed. Thank you.
This is hard. My name is Leslie Lomenzo. This is Kenya Aisa. We met Rick in the mid-90s. I think it was 95, around 95, 96. I was a very, very ambitious young singer and songwriter. I was referred to Rick by another producer who said, I know this guy in Castro Valley, and he's kind of maybe sort of thinking about putting together a girl group, and I was like, grabbed onto it, raced over to Castro Valley, and met this guy, Rick Beretta. All I can say is my life was not the same after that. I was extremely ambitious. Rick was at that point kind of lukewarm on the idea. He knew it was going to be a lot of work. But I pushed and I pushed and I pushed. I said, I got to do this. And at the time, I wanted, my goal in life was to get a record deal. I thought that was going to change everything. That was it. That was the golden ring. And he would lecture me. Everything I know about the music business, just about everything, is because of Rick. And I mean that sincerely. He said, Leslie, I can get you a deal. That's not, I can get you a deal. But your life isn't going to necessarily change. I mean, it's, you got to understand it, yeah, in one ear, not the other. So I said, I'll do everything. I'll audition. I'll find the girls. I'll audition them. We'll write the music. So I pretty much bullied him into it. So we did, and we held auditions. It was going to be 4 girls, and then it was down to 3. And it was so hard to find the right fit. We ended up with 2, which is my dear friend Kenya, right here, who's fabulous. And he did. He got us a deal. We were signed to Riot Records, a subsidiary of Atlantic, and I remember he used to tell me, "You're an Atlantic Records artist." Even it was a development deal. He said, "You're a major label artist." That way he was pumping me up. Oh God, everything I know about recording, and I mean that this is not an exaggeration, almost everything I know about recording is because of Rick. He, he had me doubling and tripling and quadrupling all my vocals, and it was like university of recording. It was me learning it was me leveling up and becoming a professional. And that's what Rick did for me. I called him, we didn't have a management contract, but I remember at the time he called him my manager. He was a dear friend. The deal ended up not panning out, and I went on to do other things, and I was heartbroken over it. He held my hand through that. That was extremely difficult, as hard as we worked. A few years later, I was scouted by Capitol Records, and I was so excited, and it involved going down to LA a couple of different times, meeting with A&R. I was so excited. I thought, okay, this is going to be it, this is going to be it. Didn't pan out, and Rick was there to pick up the pieces. When I say pieces, I was crushed. And I said, screw this business, I'm done. I can't do this anymore. He was always there to talk me through it. He was always there. He called me kid also, I believe Kenya also. Hey kid. Always funny, always had something funny to say. Always lifted my spirits, always made me feel like more of a professional than I felt. He just had this way about him. We lost touch for several years, and then when we got back in touch, it was after he had been sick, and I was pretty heartbroken about that, but he was pushing ahead. He wanted to do this digital distribution of all his artist work, and I was like, all right, I'm on board, tell me what to do, so we started I was helping him, put together the contracts and proofreading and editing and all of this stuff. And he sounded like the old Rick. I think the first conversation I had with him after we kind of reconnected, I could hear he had been sick. But every conversation after that, it sounded like the old Rick. I mean, you would never, ever know. That's what I tell everybody, because it's like, this is not a man who sounded like he was ill. So for the last several months before he passed, that's what we've been working on, and it was a race against time. And none of us expected this. He meant everything to me, and even to the very end, he was pushing me to revive. I hadn't been singing in years. He wanted me to do an acoustic album and an EP, and I'm gonna, I can get you into this and that studio, and I hadn't been singing in 12 years or whatever. He got me to write my first song in 25 years. I mean, I hadn't been writing, I hadn't been doing anything. And I'm like, he got me on board. I was like, gee, maybe I could do this. And I started thinking, because like many of you, I had lost several people. I'd lost my mom in 2019. I'd been through a lot as well. So I had let go of singing. And he made me consider it again, which was huge. I can't believe I'm talking about him in the past tense. He was everything to me. I loved him so much, and it really, really comforts me to be in the presence of all of you who loved him too. So thank you so much.
Hey everybody. Leslie kind of told you the whole thing, but I just want to say that, after our deal hit the skids, I went to grad school and some other stuff, but I did keep singing, and I sang in bands, and I shouldn't be touching this because that's making a sound. But I continued to sing and still sing and perform and everything, and I would never have done that if it weren't for Rick. He was always, there was never a negative thing that he would ever say to us. Like, we would be critical of ourselves or critical of something that we sang or whatever, but he never said anything negative. And like sometimes I'd be like, that was truly horrible. And he would be like, no, that was great. You were great. Like, okay. But these last few months, several months, like Leslie was saying, we've been talking a lot and having three-way phone calls and emails and listening to our music all over again. And at this point now, I have a 13-year-old son who, you know, didn't know any of this, right? And so I played my son some of our music, and he was like, "Oh my God, Mom, is that you?" And I'm just like, yeah, you know, because some of the songs have a little kind of a sexy undertone or whatever, and some of it I'm kind of moaning and groaning through it and everything, and he's just like, "Mom, you know, there was a whole world before you got here, kid, you know." But fortunately, you know, it was so cool just reconnecting with Rick and talking to him. And when Leslie had told me that he had passed, I was shocked, you know, and it took me some time. And I thought to myself, man, it crushes me that I'm never going to hear his voice again. So then I went to my phone and listened to his last voicemail. And so I'm going to stop that there because I have done very well so far. But he was just that overprotective, super overprotective, like a big brother when we would go to like events and industry things he would take us to. And even some of the closer people who shall remain unnamed, that would be like telling him, "Oh, well, you know, they're cute, and blah, 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 blah. Would they go out with me?" And he'd be like, "Stay back." You know, he was super, I'm like, dude, it's okay, that, you know, whatever. And he's just like, and so, you know, he loved us, and we knew he loved us, and we loved him too. You know, he was a great friend, and as you guys all know, like an incredible person, the kindest person I've ever known. And so, thanks.
I just wanted to say one really quick one thing. My husband is not here because he was so overwhelmed. He's here in spirit. He couldn't do it. He just met Rick. He met him once in person. My husband's also a musician, and Rick had seen him at a gig. He was playing with his Beatles band. And then they connected on the phone, and my husband is the type of person who does not let people in easily. He's very sensitive, and so he's very careful about making new friends. And so he finally allowed that door to open with Rick, and it was like paisan all over the place. My name is Lorenzo, that's my married name. My husband's very Italian as well. So they really connected on that level, and they were brothers like immediately. And I didn't even realize how overwhelmed my husband Peter was. So again, he's here in spirit. He already loved Rick as quickly. I mean, that's what Rick did. You were in his fold immediately, and my husband felt that way as well. And I just wanted to express that to the family how much he loved Rick. Oh, okay. Yeah. Thank you.
My name is Bill Roy, and back in 1980 I worked at Music Unlimited, San Leandro, and in walked this great family. Met Rico and Nina and Dolly, and just the nicest people, and I was able to sell Rick some items, and we started talking about music, and I play drums. He said, well, come on by the studio, let's have some fun. And turned into a great friendship. We'd sit on the phone, talk all night, late at night, and just get around the family more. Just felt like a part of the family. They just take you in, like if you know them, all of a sudden your family. It was just such a great feeling. But I do remember being able to play drums for Rick for a while there, and we did the show at Keystone. I remember great memories of that, and just being around the family. And we did also in 2014. I was doing stand-up comedy for Michael Booker, and Rico we were talking. He says, "Let's do a show together." I said, "Okay, come on." So he did his skit, and I didn't mind. It was a good time, but I have so many good memories of him. He's just a great guy, and I will always remember him. And one day, Rico, we'll be up there, and up in they have him playing "She's My Charger" one more time, if you're familiar with that now. But no, it's good times, and just I'm gonna miss him so much. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Johnny Purpleman Sargent, and I met Rico over 30 years ago, and immediately it was obvious he was a keeper, what I call a keeper. And when I met Debbie and Nina, I knew they were keepers too, but Rick was immediately a brother. So over the years, as I got to do, and one time he worked on a project of mine, and his attention to detail was just, I couldn't believe it. And we performed together once at an event, and we're both keyboard players. And so what I want to point to is that he was so modest that with all of you sharing, I just have to thank all of you because you've expanded the breadth of my appreciation of Rico, because he didn't toot his own horn. I mean, he was, and it's really helped me see how much bigger his life was than he ever showed any one of us in the moment. And so he for me, he's not gone. He'll be with me forever. Thank you.
Oh boy, how you guys doing? My name is Michael Booker, and I do comedy, did it at the Englander for 17 years, so it should be easy for me to stand up and talk to you. But this thing, I really broke down when I saw the picture of us. The way I met Rick was that I was at the Englander doing shows there, and the owner said, "Look, you need to go get some flyers put together." And so he took me to go to Debbie's house, and I got there and I told Debbie, "Hey, yeah, I was your friend first." That's true, thank you. You're doing a good job of relaxing. So what happened was I got there, and I was talking to Debbie, and I told her about, my son does music and stuff. She said, "Well, my husband has a studio." I said, "Oh, okay, well, that's nice." And she said, "Well, why don't you go meet him?" But keep in mind, I had told my wife I was only going to be there 10 minutes. Remember that, 10 minutes. And so what happened was, yeah, no, I didn't know him at the time. And so I got there, and I went into the studio and met this guy, and we just started talking. And I was there for 2 hours. I mean, that man had the gift of being able to make you feel comfortable, and he would listen, and he would add, and very few people. I mean, he introduced me to, like, Chris, Bill, good old Dave over there. We did some fundraising. Rick did comedy, too, and he sang. Dan Ashley was there. Elizabeth was there. I mean, everybody was there. So over the years, I kept telling my wife the story that, "Hey, I'm about ready to go see Rick. I'll be back in 10 minutes. And my wife said, "There's no way in the world." And 2, 3 hours sometimes. But you know how you can be around people, and there's certain people, after 10 minutes, you can feel you've been there too long. With Rick, it was a case of, it was timeless. You just sat there, and it was just so much fun all the time with him. And I would call him, even when he wasn't doing well. We would talk on the phone, and he was, one thing good about Rick is one of the few people who would always say, "I didn't know that, and I learned something." And most people just, people get stuck on who they are and stuff, and they don't, like, "I know everything." Rick would say, "I didn't know that." And God bless Rick, the whole family, all of you out here. I look around, I've seen a lot of people here I haven't seen in a while. Then I tend to forget on who Rick introduced me to. and who I met, and a lot of them are here right now, and stuff, which shows how powerful that man is. I had a hard time coming up here because I kept saying to Ed Hazard back there, Ed performed there too, you knew Rick too, that, you know, I said, I don't know if I could make it, you know, up here talking, but I feel the comfort and the good energy from all of you out here right now and everything. But, you know, Rick, man, I'm going to miss the hell out of you too. We had some damn good conversations, deep conversations. I mean, politics, religion, and everything else. And even though he believed in certain things, Rick would always say, there's always another side to the story, and I'm willing to listen to what you have to say, Michael. And stuff. And he absorbed that, you know, and it was really good and stuff. And so, you know, bless the family, everybody else, you know, very few people can say that they've had somebody, when all of it's been said here tonight, how much he has influenced people. And that's the key to it. Not too many people can walk away and say, you know, this person here did this for me, and deep thoughts he had all the time too. So anyway, bless the family, bless all of you out here and everything else, and God bless everybody. Thank you.
I do music, but Rick didn't have too much to do with that. I'm going to miss him, and I cherish him more than I've ever cherished him before today. He was great. He definitely knew how to make us all laugh when we needed to, and he knew how to make us think about what needed to be thought about at the time when it was necessary. And I appreciate him so much. Thank you.
If I can ask everybody here tonight to do one thing that Rick would do for everybody in this room, is when we leave here, is to be kind and reach your arm out and take the time to help somebody, or take the time to listen to somebody, as Rick would do. If we can leave here today and leave that in Rick's memory, I'm sure Rick would look down and want all of us to do that, because that's how Rick carried his life, was to make sure that he put people in front of himself. And if we can carry that for him today, I think that would mean the world to him upstairs. Rick, I love you. I'm going to miss you. It was hard for me to come here. It was tough for me to come here. As I listened to the music, as I listened to the things we've done, I pulled out the plays from Eddie Money that we wrote together and did that stuff together. It's just hard for me to every day to know I'm not going to be able to hear from him again or get that call. But I know I'll carry out his tradition, and I hope we all will do the same here. And that is helping people and think of others before we think of ourselves. In your name, Rick, amen, and I love you, brother.
Anybody else before we close up? I just want to share a couple quick little things. I'm going to probably cry. I started earlier. You know, Rick knew so many people. I tried to call all of them. Believe me, it was not possible. When I was going through the Rolodex, helping Debbie and Nina reach out. And it was one of the things I learned about him. And I've known him pretty well for the last 12 years when the Beretta family adopted me. First Rico, and then he brought me home and he goes, hey, if you and I don't get along, I'm screwed because Debbie and Nina, you're theirs, right? So anyway, it just fast family. But I was amazed at the detail of care and information that he stored about every person in his phone contact list. I mean, I have duplicates and all kinds of a mess. And he was meticulous in how he paid attention to what was important to you. And that really touched my heart. So that was something new I learned about Rico.
I met Rico 12 years ago at a Grammy party, and we sat, I mean, from the instant we met each other, we sat there like two band kids, goofing off and cutting up when all these other people are all hubbubbing and trying to get to know the right people, and we didn't care. We were just having a good time and just laughing our butts off. And he was a pop guy, and I was a folk girl. So those two don't usually mix in the music world. And I thought, well, this is just a cool person. I just really liked him, and he really liked me, and we started talking. And he goes, okay, come on, send me a song. So like, I'm like the Lilith girl, coffee house singer, writing songs, the Nashville kind of thing, right? And I'd had some, you know, stuff going on. Those two worlds were never going to meet, the pop world and the folk world. But he's like, no, send me some of your songs. And I'm like, no, I'm not going to send you my songs. And I go, I'm putting a record together. No, send me some songs. So I had these demos. And one of the demos had a guitar that was out of tune, and I'm super sensitive to tone, and I knew he would be too. And I said, I can't send it to you, I have to redo it, because it's out of tune, it'll drive you nuts. He goes, no, I can hear a song through that. And I'm thinking, okay, fine. So I sent him 3 songs. And he gets off the phone, he goes and listens to them. And I'm thinking, he's gonna come back laughing. Anyway, he comes back and he said, you've made an old Italian guy cry. And all of a sudden, I'm doing a record with him. And I'm thinking, what's a pop guy gonna do with all this singer-songwriter stuff? And he listens to my earlier records and he's like, oh yeah, we're gonna redo that one. Great song, terrible production. Great song, terrible production. Nobody gets you! And what I didn't know was that Rico had secured investment for his own projects. And he put that aside to produce House of Mirrors. And he put me in front of him wholeheartedly. And we had the time of our lives. And the work that he was doing toward the end of his life to get the music out that he had produced earlier in his life was something that I've been helping him with. And I told him during these last months that no matter what happens, I will carry that forward for him, and I will. So thank you. Thank you for being here today.
But the fact of the matter is that Rico, and believe me, he was everything that everyone has said up here. He was a person who gave you his total attention, and that you felt like you were the only one in the room for him. But his beautiful wife and his beautiful sister give you those same gifts. And so, our dearest Nina and Debbie, we're thinking of both of you with all of our love and prayers in honor of our precious and loving Rico. This is for every wonderful and memorable moment we shared just by being together. This is for all the beautiful memories of the love, joy, music, laughter, caring, thoughtfulness, generosity, and loyalty your friendship gifted us. All the big and small things that over time added up to be so great. Most of all, this is for both of you to tell you how very special and appreciated you are and have always been to us, and how much you are loved. Wherever you may be, we will always carry you in our hearts along with Rico. Our hopes and prayers are for a future of healing, good health, and continued love. With all our love, Marina and Ronnie.